Which quarterback faces more pressure going into 2025? Auburn's Jackson Arnold or Texas A&M's Marcel Reed? Elliot Q wants to know.
I'm going to go Marcel Reed. Just because the standard at Auburn at quarterback play the last 2 years has been set so low that I think Auburn fans are so jaded that the expectation, they're like, I think they trust Jackson Arnold can be better than those guys. And I think most of us do. But I think they're a little hesitant and gun shy where they're like, hey, we're going to see it before we truly start believing it. So, but I think A&M fans are a little bit more hook, line, and sinker with Marcel Reed taking that next step in year two. With Casey Concepcion, your boy, coming over. They got a lot more weapons this year, Terry Bussey and the boys. I think, again, I know Jackson Arnold has the receivers outside, but again, I want to see that offensive line for Auburn truly take that next step. Like I'm high on them, but I want to see him take that next step. And I just think Auburn's expectations right now at the quarterback spot are just lower than what A&M is going to have rolling in, I think, for Marcel Reed. I think it's more of a put-up, shut-up year for Marcel Reed more so than it is for Jackson Arnold.
Yes, I agree with you.
Sorry, Barry, let me do one last sentence. At the school he's at. Sorry.
Sure. Okay. Here's what I will change. I agree with you that Marcel Reed faces pressure and that this is a prove-it year for him at Texas A&M and that he's got a good run game. He's got himself a pretty decent offensive line. He's got himself some weapons. He's got himself a tight end. He's got himself an offensive coordinator that knows what the mobility aspect of his game is going to embrace and elevate the staff. So I will give you that. I flipped to Jackson Arnold for one main reason. They're built, I think, right now to be in that sleeper conversation as an SEC threat. A&M to me is still at 8-14 because I have questions on their defense. I have questions on the secondary. I have questions with their pass rush. I still think that they're missing some elements. It'll be better in the back end this year because they ranked like 90th in pass coverage in 2024. It'll be better, but is their pass rush going to be better when they only really have Cassius Howell and insert a bunch of young up-and-comers? I'm not sure. So with A&M, I can say and justifiably go, hey, you're 8-4 this year. You have some pieces in line. You have some really good offensive play. But Marcel Reed maybe cost you a game or your defense cost you a game. I don't feel that way about Auburn right now. Auburn, to me, I think has a defense that is good enough to keep them in every single game. I think they have the best wide receiver core in college football, at least on paper. And certainly they have the best wide receiver core in the SEC. I think the offensive line is fine. It's not elite, but it's fine. And so I add all of those elements together. And I say, Jackson Arnold, just be a facilitator. Be the best point guard possible. Know your place. Understand your assignment. Put yourself in a prime position to where you're connecting, building a rapport with Cam Coleman. You and Eric Singleton are on the same wavelength. You got really good consistency with the tight end position. You really know how to do a check down pass out of the backfield to Damari Alston. You really are able to know when to tuck and run. Just be smart with the football. Be a good facilitator. Do all of the minor things really, really efficient. They're going to be a 9-win team. I can't say that about A&M. I think that when you look at Marcel Reed, even though he has a great run game, even though he has some weapons, there are going to be some moments where they say, hey, dude, we're going to need you to go ahead and step it on up. Our defense is getting cooked left and right, and we can't add pressure onto our quarterback. So if he ends up losing that game, but it's close, maybe you can talk yourself into, well, it wasn't all Marcel Reed. There were other faults. If you end up losing a game because of a bad interception with Jackson Arnold, with that weaponry, with that offensive line, with that defense bailing you out of trouble, time after time after time after time, that to me means that you face more pressure. Because the turnover was a main issue that we'd heard about all throughout his tenure when he was at Oklahoma. Is it going to be a main issue that heads into this season? And what do we know about Auburn? Dave, they were one of the best teams last year when it came to offensive personnel consistency. They were terrible in one major category, turnovers. You just can't have the turnovers. They were awful. They could have been 8-4 last year and maybe even 9-3. There were like 4 games that they should have won, but the Kip Lewis interception, the 4 interception game against Cal, the way that you played against Arkansas with the back and forth turnovers. I mean, right then and there, that's a 7-5 team. Just don't do that, Jackson Arnold. And to me, when you also factor in, he was considered by many one of the better quarterback prospects coming out of Denton Guyer. There's a little bit more added pressure for you to succeed. Just a little bit, in my opinion. So I think
the expectations from the fan base is a little bit different. You know what I mean? I just think if Jackson Arnold was okay and they won 8 games, but Marcel Reed was just average, and A&M ended up winning 6-7. I think it was A&M fans would be a little bit more fed up with him because Arnold will come back and prove himself in a year or two at Auburn.
But flip it this way: if Jackson Arnold ended up being average and they went 8-4, and Marcel Reed was great, but A&M went 7-5, A&M fans would feel really good about the quarterback position. They'd have questions on the defense. There'd be a lot of people, I think, out at Auburn saying, "Why are we 8-4 when we have all this personnel and the way that our offense, like our defense, played, and we just had so many bad play after play after play with interceptions and turnovers?" That might be the difference. Better record because of better personnel for an Auburn team.
Yeah, I think Auburn fans, no matter what, would be fine with 8-4. If he came back and developed, I think they'd be fine. Again, I don't think they expect him to come winning 9-10 games this year.
I don't think
I'm higher on them than most. I didn't see many people go say they won 9.
I don't think that they expect them to win 9 or 10 games this year. What I do think is that if you start to gain some momentum, you win that matchup against Baylor, you win that matchup against Oklahoma, you feel good going into the month of October, then maybe it alters. Like going into the year, you go 8-4. I think a lot of people are okay with that. If you are like 5-0 at one point, if you're getting to 6-0, opinions change overnight. Now it's like, hey, you can't lose your last.
I think at that point they probably do win 9 games. If they start 6-0,
it's possible. I mean,
that means they'd have to lose. They go at 3-6 down there, or they go 2-7 down the stretch or something. Or
they would go. Yeah, they would go 8-4. They would go 2-4 down the stretch.
Yeah, which I think they have. I like them against Vandy this year. I just think their personnel is better.